then we'll go to the next sutra, which is Janmadasya Yataha. Now, the next adhikaran starts with that doubt that is that Brahman the same as the soul, or is it something higher? What is the nature of that Brahman? We talked about in Ramanujacharya's commentary, he says that when he defines Brahman, he says Bri means great. So he described it as that greatest of all beings, the greatest consciousness or the greatest spirit, the great spirit you could say, the Wankantanka. This is the Native American term for it, right? So Brihat Chaitanya, that is the nature of the Absolute, and we are the Anu Chaitanya. Now in Jiva Goswami and Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary to the first sutra and the Bhagavatam verse in relation to that, they say that the Jiv Shakti, which we are, which means it's the Vibhinang Sattva. Krishna says in the Gita, Mamai Vangso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The Jivas are Mamai Vangso, a fragmented part and parcel of that supreme absolute truth. So that absolute truth is Advaya Gyan Paratattva, the non-dual absolute whole. And the Jivas are the parts of that absolute whole. Now, we don't say that all the parts together comprise the whole itself. That's why Jiva Goswami and Bhaktivinoda Thakur say that the Jiva Shakti is a small portion, a very small portion of the Chit Shakti. The Chit Shakti means the spiritual potency. And so we're going to describe that further when we go into this Janmadasya verse. We might as well start it here. Anyway, so to remove the doubt that this idea that the soul is that same thing as that Brahman, then Ved Vyas gives this next sutra, Janmadasya Yata, to remove that doubt. For those who say that actually I, the soul, am non-different from that absolute, then he says this sutra, Janmadasya Yataha. So we'll go over this word by word, and we'll give a few different commentaries on that. So Janmadasya Yaton Vayadi Taratas Charteshva Vigyasvarat. Janma Adi Asya Yataha. When it's broken down, Janma means creation or birth. Adi, beginning with. Asya Yatan, Anvayadi Taratas, directly and indirectly. Asya Yata means from whom. So Janmadasya Yata, that's actually the sutra, and the Bhagavatam will go over the full verse. So first it starts Janma Adi Asya Yataha, which means from whom everything emanates. That is that absolute truth. So unless we're conceited enough to think that from me everything in existence has been born, then we can just understand that no, we are not that supreme Brahman. We are a small part and parcel of that supreme Brahman. We are a baby. That's why we can also create to some degree, because we're not completely different from that absolute truth. Now, the Atman and the Brahman are many times described in similar terms because they have the same quality. That's because the Brihad Chaitanya, the great spirit, from that great spirit, all the atomic spirits manifest and are eternally present within it. That's why the example is given of the body of the sun and the photons of light. So we are like photons of light, and the body of the sun is that supreme conscious whole. Even in that example, Jiva Goswami says that we shouldn't take these examples to their extreme. We take certain points from them to help us grasp some understanding of the Absolute in the logic of Sankachandra Nyaya. Sakachandra Nyaya. Logic of Sakachandra Nyaya means that it's called the moon on the branch logic. So in order to help us grasp the Absolute, which is ultimately adoksaj, beyond the mundane senses and mind, then they give us some examples like that, like the Absolute Truth is like the sun, we are like photons of light. So Janma Adi Asya Yatad Anvayadi Taratas. Anvayadi Taratas means direct and indirect. Anvayad is direct, Taratas means indirect. So directly, and indirectly refers to the Lord's creation through three potencies. Janma Adi, so his creation, and then Janma Adi means maintenance and dissolution, but beginning, the focus is on Janma. So what is his creation based on, or how is it manifest? So Jiva Goswami mentions three Shaktis. There's Swarup Shakti, that's the ultimate divine potency that we understand as Srimati Radhika. But in this case, it's talking about the Chit Shakti, Jiv Shakti, Maya Shakti. So Chit Shakti means the spiritual potency itself. That's what's Prabhupada and the Acharyas described to be like 3/4 of the absolute. This world, and the jivas also here, they're like, that's why it's described to be like a small portion. That's why it's described, this material existence is described to be like a small cloud in the sky of the absolute. Like one little cloud is like this material existence that we are lost in the sense of, you can imagine the whole sky in this world and all these huge clouds, big thunder clouds, and then there's like a little cloud that kind of faded off away into its own little thing, and it's present there in its own little existence. That's our material existence. So it's a small portion of the absolute truth. And the Jiva Shakti is described to be of the same quality of that spiritual potency. That's why we can say the Atman and the Brahman are very closely related. Right? It's the Anu Chaitanya and the Brihad Chaitanya, the great spirit and the atomic spirit. And when we align ourselves with the great spirit, then we can become completely whole within and without. That's why Gurudev describes the principle of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the principle of joining the atomic spirit with the great spirit and achieving fulfillment through that in the sense of devotion. Why should we have devotion? Because that is the great and we are the small. So naturally, even in this world, we idolize great personalities, great movie stars or athletes or anyone who's considered great in the field that we're interested in. We idolize them because we idolize those qualities that are greater than ourselves. So the idea of being part of something greater than ourselves, ultimately it's because we are part of that great spirit. And bhakti is the process of linking through yoga ourselves to that great spirit and thus achieving complete fulfillment. That's why Krishna says, Manamala bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mamna maskuru. Absorb your mind in me and come to me. Krishna says that if you absorb yourself completely in me, you will be bound to come to me. If you absorb yourself in Maya, you will stay in Maya. So this is the Jiv Shakti. It's a small portion of that Chit Shakti. The Chit Shakti manifests the spiritual realm, all the spiritual planets, which are vastly superior and vastly larger in quantity than our material existence. Once I asked Prabhuji that in the spiritual world, do we have all the variety we see in this world? Like all the ugliness, all the evil and darkness also, because it must have some perfect representation even. Prabhuji said, don't think like that. He said that Krishna keeps all the best things. Even all the 8,400,000 species of life we see here, he says not all of them are present also. He says the perfect state of the soul has its perfect representation there. But part of the idea of the whole absolute truth is that part of that whole absolute truth is the Maya Shakti. And so some things are only present there. It doesn't mean they're not part of the absolute truth, because they're part of it in the sense of they are part of that temporary manifestation of nature in the form of Maya. And it's always in the state of flux. So the Chit Shakti manifests the transcendental realm and also the transcendental forms of the eternal associates called the Nityasiddhas. So they're not Jiva Shakti as we know of it, meaning Yashoda, Nanda, Krishna's parents, Radhika's closest friends, Madhu Mangal, Krishna's closest friends, Baladev, Subal, Sridham. They're part of the Chit Shakti. Jiv Shakti manifests some of the jivas also in the spiritual world, and also the jivas who become perfected through sadhana or mercy, either or both. Then when they enter the spiritual world, they're still in the category of Jiv Shakti, right? So that's the idea of the photons of light entering into the body of the sun, but they still maintain their individuality. Like the example is given of an ocean, when drops of water, or even of a cup, people say that when the soul enters the absolute, it merges within it. But some arguments countering that is the idea that if you put in a drop of water in a glass jar that's already full, it will overfull. If you say, okay, we're going to add 50 drops of water, but the glass is already brimming full with water, it's going to overflow. So the idea is that even when the soul enters the absolute truth in that spiritual realm, it maintains its distinct quality. Another example is given if you're sitting on a hill looking at a forest and you see a bird, a green bird, enter the forest and disappear in the trees. Only a foolish person would say the bird has become one with the trees. An intelligent person understands that the bird has entered within the forest and is present in existence in the forest. Now the problem is that the absolute truth effulgence or Brahman is so effulgent that you cannot see beyond that. So it's like when souls enter that spiritual realm, between the spiritual realm and the material realm, there's that effulgence of the Brahma Jyoti, the effulgence of the Brahman absolute truth. So it's like, oh, they're merging into that light. But they cannot see that through the light. It's like if you're entering into even fog. If your friend is standing next to you and you're next to a big foggy area or foggy forest, you enter the forest, it's like they're gone. but they're still there if you can enter and find them. So the idea is when you achieve salvation, then you enter that realm and you still have existence there. So then we come to Maya Shakti. What is Maya Shakti? Maya Shakti is described to be like the reflection or the shadow existence. For example, in the example of light, where there is light, that which is in the shadow is in darkness. So, for example, if you're hidden away from the light, or if you're in a cave or something, you're in darkness. So that state of darkness is the state of illusion or Maya. And that is, therefore, it's described to be the Bahiranga Shakti. So Swarup Shakti, or the Chit Shakti, the spiritual potency, its shadow side is the Maya Shakti. And that's why the Jiva is described to be in the marginal line between the two, because we have that conscious choice to go into the darkness or into the light. And that's why Purji says, as long as we're in this body, in this world, we're on that Tatashta line. The Tatashta line means the shoreline between the spiritual realm and the material realm. And as long as we choose Maya, we're in Maya. As long as we choose Krishna, we're in the spiritual realm. That's why Prabhupada says, if gradually we should try to increase our Krishna consciousness and decrease our Maya consciousness. That's why he established the Society for Krishna Consciousness, because you want to enter the Chit realm, spiritual realm, become conscious of that realm, and take your consciousness away from the ephemeral realm of Maya. Then you can become from the Tatashta Shakti into the transcendental energy. So these are the Anvayadi Taratas. Anvayad means directly the Lord manifests the spiritual realm and the Jivas, and indirectly, because it's like his shadow potency, the Bahiranga Shakti is manifested, and the Bahiranga Shakti is both direct and indirect. That goes back to the Brahma Gayatri explanation that we mentioned this a couple times already. Om Bhur, Om Bhuva, Om Svat, Om Jana, Om Mahar, Om Tapa, Om Brahma. The full Brahma Gayatri we're chanting, actually, the full Brahma Gayatri, which we don't chant actually, includes all the what is called Vyahritis. Each Vyahriti is one of the 7 upper planetary regions. And we're on the earth realm now. From the earth realm we can go into the higher realms through that practice of mantra. So Om Bhur means this realm. Om Bhuva, the astral realm. Om Sva, the Swarga Loka. From that, the Jana Loka, the Tapa Loka, where the sages are, ultimately Brahma Loka. And then from that, beyond in the transcendental realm. So because they are manifested from the absolute truth, they have some of that quality as well. It's described to be the combination of Purush, Prakriti and Pradhan. That is Maya. Purush means the quality of that original, you could say, controlling aspect of the absolute truth, the masculine form of godhood, and the Prakriti is the feminine counterpart, and their combination through ultimately Shiva and Shakti, that manifests as the material existence with the combination of the Pradhan. The Pradhan is the aggregate of material elements. So the Pradhan, it's described to be in its unmanifest state, like when the universe ultimately is dissolved and it re-enters the pores of the cosmic Lord Vishnu, Karunadraksha Vishnu, on the ocean of all cause. At that time it becomes unmanifest. When it re-manifests, the Pradhan manifests in the form of all the different elements, which is the senses, the object of the senses, the subtle body, the mind, ego, intelligence, earth, water, fire, ether, sense of smell, sense of touch, sense of taste. All these exist in their subtle forms. And then by the combination of Purush and Prakriti, then it's said in Brahma Samhita, Iha Mahesh Linga Yonyatmika Maya, Iha Maheshwara Praja. By the cosmic combination of the Linga and Yoni in the sense of Shiva and Devi Shakti, all the worlds are manifested. So that is the Maya Shakti, and it's both direct and indirect. So that's Anvayadi Taratas. All right, one explanation of it. There's probably lots of them. Anyway, Janma Dasya Yaton Vayadi Taratas Charteshva Bhigyaswarat. Charteshva Bhigyaswarat, it has, I don't know if we're going to have time. It's like just getting started, but we have 20 more minutes. Charteshva Bhigyaswarat means he is independent and he is Swarat. He is not controlled by any other, and he's independent. That's why it said the difference between the material realm and Krishna is that the material realm is dependent on Krishna. He is the source of its existence. Without him, it would have no substance. But he is not dependent on it. He is independent, Swarat. And he is abhigya. He is not covered. He is not covered by Maya.